Definition of contract, if I talk about, right? Section 2 clause H says an agreement which is enforceable by law is a contract. What's an agreement? Promise and every set of promises forming consideration for each other is nothing but an agreement, right? Promise plus promise. Then what's a promise? An offer when accepted becomes a promise. What is enforceability? So we said filing a suit and court also compelling the parties to perform, right? Filing a suit into the court of law, and then court of law compelling the parties to perform. Then, is every agreement a contract? No, every agreement may not be a contract, but every contract is necessarily an agreement. Then, talking about the conditions for enforceability which comes from section 10, we said all these conditions which we are talking about is required to be satisfied, then only the contract, then only the, enforceability is possible, otherwise the enforceability is not possible. Correct? All. That means it's not 8 out of 10 or 5 out of 10, nothing like that. It is about all the conditions which has to be satisfied, then only we can say the contract comes into place. That means agreement becomes a contract. Basically, because we know that enforceability is what is required to make an agreement a contract, isn't it? So what are those conditions of enforceability? Like there shall be an offer by one party to another party, right? And that another party to whom offer has been given should give his acceptance. Then the offer which is given should be understood by the offeree in the same sense, right? By the other party in the same sense. So there should be meeting of minds. The acceptance should be given on the same thing, not on the other thing. Then there must be an intention to always create legal obligation, we said. So it's not about social obligation or moral obligation, right? Because if you want to go to court of law, you should have that intention to go to court of law. You should have that intention to compel the other party to perform. If not, you will take them to court of law. Then we also said in commercial agreements, the presumption will be always that they have the intention to create legal relations. They have the intention to go to court of law. Then free consent of the parties, that is, we said the consent should be obtained freely, not by way of fraud, undue influence, coercion, or maybe misrepresentation and all. Then we also said in order to make the agreement enforceable, the parties which are there in the contract or the agreement should be competent parties. The examples which we took was for incompetent parties, like minor is incompetent or person of unsound mind or persons who are disqualified by law. Then we also talked about there should be lawful consideration. So not just consideration should be there, but the consideration should be lawful, which obviously will depend upon object as well. So object also should be lawful, consideration also should be lawful. Then the agreement shall not be expressly declared as void by the law of the land. Also we talked about that the agreement must have certainty. There should not be vagueness, right? There should be certainty involved. Then performance should not be impossible. Right? Performance should not be impossible. That means performance should be possible. You should be able to perform. Right? So that way we have talked about the essential elements, section number 10. Essential elements for what? For valid contract, or you can say conditions of enforceability. Correct. Then coming to kinds of contracts, we said there are various bases, okay? Like enforceability or legal validity is one basis. Then formation or mode of creation can be another basis. Then performance is another, okay, basis which we can take. Now coming to enforceability or legal validity, we said there can be valid contract, there can be void contract, there can be voidable contract, there can be unenforceable contract or illegal contract, right? So we have talked about it. Okay, I'll get into that. Okay, and then we'll have to continue from what is express, implied contract and all. But as I've said, now let's take up few questions. Okay, if I simply revise, then probably it will not be right. So let me give you a chance to answer the questions. Like first thing, okay, I'm still into my recap session, but now what I'm doing is in recap session I've put some questions like I have done in some earlier sessions as well. So same way I'm doing it now also. What is the preamble of Indian Contract Act? You remember the preamble? They say define, right? Define and amend what? The law relating to contract. Law relating to contract. So wherever some customs are there, they want to amend them, and wherever there is no custom or there is no guideline or rule, then they want to come up with the guideline or rule. Correct. Then next one, Come on, guys. Commencement date of Indian Contract Act, if you can recall. It was what? 1st of September 1872, right? It is coming from section number 1. Am I right? Next, jus in personam means what? Right against a specified person. Right against what? A specified person. If you are talking about thing, then that is jus in rem. We are talking about jus in personam. Okay, great. And the basis for Indian Contract Act is jus in personam. You're right. Then contract. What is contract? Obviously, agreement plus enforceability is nothing but a contract. What is agreement? Every promise or set of promises forming consideration for each other. So in short, we said promise plus promise is nothing but agreement. Then what is a promise? So we said an offer when accepted becomes a promise, correct? Now if you recall the section numbers, as far as contract is concerned, that is defined in 2 clause H, right? That's defined in 2 clause H. As far as agreement is concerned, that is in 2 clause E. And then as far as promise is concerned, that is 2 clause B, right? Okay, great. Then coming to consensus addendum, right? It means what? Meeting of minds. It means meeting of minds, identity of minds, agree upon the same thing in the same sense. If we want to elaborate, we can say agree upon the same thing in the same sense, correct? Then dash agreements. Dash agreements have got the presumption of legal relations. Can you complete this sentence, or can you complete this blank? Yeah, correct. If you are saying commercial, okay, commercial agreements will always have the presumption of legal relation, then you are absolutely right. Right? Just now we have revised as well. We said social or moral obligation means no presumption like this. Okay, but when commercial agreements you are talking about, there is always a presumption that there is legal relations. The intention is to create legal relation. Okay, the intention is to, legally oblige someone. Yeah, or maybe file a suit. Okay, next thing, what did I write? Not possible to perform or possible to perform. Which one you should go for? Yeah, we'll go for what? Not possible, sorry. Not impossible to perform, right? Which means definitely possible to perform, but I've told you that our focus is on what? Impossibility. We are trying to highlight that impossibility should not be there. Okay, impossibility should not be there. So that means ultimately we are trying to say possibility. But while writing, you should use this word only, because law also uses this, right? Then free consent. I hope you remember what is free consent. Consent which is not obtained. Not obtained by whom or what? Coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, as well as mistake, right? So if consent is not obtained or not hit by these, so what do you mean by taking consent? Obviously taking acceptance from the other party. So if you are taking, if one party, that is the offerer, the person who's giving the offer, is taking acceptance, is taking the consent, he should not be taking that consent by applying coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, or mistake. Okay. Then coming to certainty. Do you think there shall be certainty in agreements? Yes. There shall not be vagueness, right? There shall not be any sort of vagueness. If you remember my example, I said if I'm dealing in 3 kinds of oil and I don't specify which type of oil I want to sell, I just say I am selling 100 tins of oil to someone. Okay, but which type of oil? I have not specified, and I am saying I'm dealing in 3 kinds of oil. So it will create a vagueness, it will create confusion there. So that's not right. There should be always certainty, right? Then coming to void contract and void agreement. If you recall, void agreement, from the agreement stage itself it is void. That means this is nothing but actually void ab initio, right? Void ab initio means what? Void from the beginning. This is nothing but void from the beginning. Am I right? Void from the beginning. Then when we talk about voidable, okay, when we talk about voidable contract, void contract, void agreement we have talked about. So void contract. Void contract means what? Void from the beginning, or maybe later. Okay, not necessarily that void contract means always void from the beginning only. It can be void from later stage as well, right? So that's where, if you remember the definition given in 2 clause J, which says ceases to be enforceable, right? Void contract is which one is not enforceable or ceases to be enforceable. Ceases to be enforceable means what? Earlier it was enforceable, but sometime later it ceases, it stops to be enforceable, right? 2 clause J. Then 2 clause I talks about voidable contract, right? 2 clause I talks about voidable contract. And what is voidable contract? Where there's an option of making it void or valid, right? Voidable. So it can be made as void or it can be kept as valid as well. Which person will get this? Which party will get this? And when will they get this? So one example I have discussed. Let us say the consent is obtained by coercion. Then the person on whom coercion is applied is an aggrieved party, is the party who has suffered. So that party will have an option to decide whether that party wants to make that contract void or valid, right? So aggrieved party means the party who has suffered will have an option to decide or to take a decision whether to continue with the contract, whether to make the contract valid or void. So voidable means can be void, can be valid, depends on the party. Okay, then what is valid contract? If you remember, the agreement which satisfies all those elements of section number 10 plus sometimes some other requirements also. Okay guys, then only it becomes a valid contract. A contract which is enforceable in the court of law. And when is it enforceable? Obviously when it complies section 10 or some other special requirement there, then they have to satisfy that also. So that's why I'm saying agreement plus what? Compliance of section 10 of Indian Contract Act or other special requirement. Like if some agreement has to be on stamp paper only, then only it will be enforceable. Like that it can be there, no? So that's why I've written other requirement, okay? Then coming to void contract and unenforceable contract. I hope you remember. Void contract means what you're talking about is maybe section 10 is not satisfied. Maybe section 10 is not satisfied. When we talk about unenforceable contract, maybe section 10 is complied with, but some other requirement, like just now I have mentioned, stamp paper only it should be there, it should be registered, okay, then only it can be enforced. Like that, if there is some other requirement which is not satisfied, then it comes under unenforceable contract. As such, void contract is also not enforceable. Okay, I'm repeating again. As such, void contract is also not enforceable. But then when we say unenforceable, what we mean is section 10 requirements fulfilled, however, some other special requirements not fulfilled. Okay, then what is section 10? As I've told you, section 10 is nothing but essential elements of a valid contract, or we can also say it is nothing but conditions of enforceability, right? It can be essential elements or it can be conditions of enforceability, anything. Then, will moral or social obligation result in a contract? Will moral or social obligation imply, right? Imply that there is a contract? The answer is no, it's not possible. Only when there is a legal obligation, then we can say there is a contract. But moral or social obligation doesn't bring a presumption of legal relation. So there is no question of saying that there is a contract. Then, now, tell me what is a collateral transaction? Come on guys. Next one, what is a collateral transaction? Also, sir, we haven't discussed. Yes, I know. But then, if you remember, yesterday we were talking about illegal contracts, right? Illegal agreements. So, that part where we had some differences between void agreement and illegal agreement, I said you have to read it as homework. And if you have some doubts, you will have to message me. And since no one has messaged me or has asked me what is collateral, so that's where I'm asking you. Okay. Anyways, don't worry. It's a very simple concept. Collateral means what we say is connected transaction. Okay. Collateral, connected one. This is an example. Let's say that person A wants to kill person B. Person A wants to kill person B. Okay, wants to kill person B. Now so this is illegal, right? This is illegal. And this he is doing because C has directed him. So there is a contract. Okay, there is a contract between C and A. C has asked A to kill B. And in turn he said, I'll give you 1 crore. So A is saying, I'll give you 1 crore. You go and kill whom? B. So this is an illegal agreement. Okay. The contract or the agreement between A and C is illegal. Killing is illegal, no? Now, for this purpose, who knows? A wants a gun. A wants a gun. So he goes to D. So to D, some don, and says, please give me a gun. So that person D gives gun to A. Okay, gives gun to A. So now what happens? This particular transaction or the agreement between A and D will be called as collateral transaction, connected transaction to that illegal agreement between A and C. Did you follow? Originally, there is a contract between whom? A and C. C has asked A to kill B. For this purpose, A needs a pistol, A needs a gun. So thereby he is contacting whom? He is contacting D. So the contract between D and A, or the agreement between D and A is nothing but what? Collateral. This is collateral. This is connected to what? This illegal agreement. Okay, this illegal agreement between C and A. Okay, this is collateral to, conditional, connected to this illegal agreement. Followed? So now the question comes, when we talk about illegal agreements, can it be enforced in court of law and court of law will compel the other party to perform? Obviously no. Obviously no. So please understand that illegal agreements are always void. Now comes the question, what about the collateral transactions to illegal agreement? Are they also void or they are valid? Did you follow? See, the illegal agreement is void, I said. So now the question comes, the collateral transactions, collateral to what? Collateral to illegal agreements. Is this valid or void is my question, right? Is this valid or void is my question. And the answer is, this is also void. This is also void. Followed? All of you have understood? Great. So if you have understood, now one more question I want to ask. Is it that every void agreement, okay, listen to me, every void agreement is illegal? Come on, answer. The answer will be what? No, it's not like that. But yes, we can say every illegal agreement, what we can say? Every illegal agreement is certainly void. Okay, every void agreement is illegal? No, it's not. But every illegal agreement is void. Acha. One more thing. Do you think that every void agreement, okay, or any void agreement will imply punishment? Okay, will imply punishment. Maybe in the nature of fine, maybe in the nature of imprisonment, okay, or maybe both, right? Is it that every void agreement or any void agreement will always result in punishment? The answer is no. But can I say every illegal agreement? Okay, this is not possible. Every time it won't happen like this, But then when I am talking about illegal agreements, okay, when I am talking about illegal agreements, tell me, is it always going to lead to punishment? Yes, it's always going to lead to punishment. This is yes, This is yes. Okay, you'll say, sir, is it written in our book? These points are written in the book? Yes. The homework which I gave you, which is differences between void agreement and illegal agreement, covers this. Okay, cover these points. So if you have not read, please read that. Okay, already the notes have been uploaded, so you should read that on a daily basis without fail. And those who have read, very good, and I guess you were able to answer these questions. Chalo, so we have completed our recap. Now let us move ahead with what? Let us move ahead with what? Let us move ahead with types of contracts which we are discussing. Okay, so let's go one by one. Let's go one by one. First one, valid contract. Sir, you have explained this yesterday. Yeah, but I'm just trying to revise. On the basis of creation, okay, on the basis of formation is what we need to start. But then before that, I'm just trying to take up what we have discussed yesterday, that is on the basis of enforceability or legal validity. We have discussed valid contract. So what does valid contract means? The contract which is enforceable in the court of law. And what do you mean by enforceability? That the parties can go to court of law and court of law can compel the parties to perform. Correct? Compel the parties to perform. So if I take an example, very simple example I'll take. If A has agreed that he will supply certain goods, let's say those goods are pens, okay, to B, and B will pay rupees 2 lakhs for those pens, okay, maybe 1 lakh pens have to be supplied or some 10,000 pens have to be supplied. So B has to pay what? 2 lakh rupees to A. This is the contract between them. All the essential elements have been satisfied. All the essential elements given under section 10 has been satisfied. Any special requirement also has been satisfied. So that is where what will happen? The contract will become valid. So if it becomes valid, so it means what? If it becomes valid, that means what? It means it will be enforceable in the court of law. So to understand further, if let's say A has supplied those goods which he promised that I will sell those pens, I will supply those pens. He has supplied. But this fellow B is a namakul, right? Is a namakul, meaning what? He has not supplied those goods. He has not paid that money for the goods which he has received. Okay, so goods will be supplied by A as per our example. So A has supplied goods, but B has not made the payment. So now do you think A can go to the court of law? Yes. And do you think now court of law will compel this party B to pay this money, that is rupees 2 lakhs to A? Yes. Court can compel this person, B, okay, can ask this person B to pay the money. This is valid contract. I hope I'm clear. So valid contract in short is nothing but enforceable in the court of law. Okay, chalo. So let's move on to the next one. Next one is what? Void contract. What is a void contract? Okay, if you recall the section number 2 clause J, right? 2 clause J of the Indian Contract Act gives us this. Okay, so it says what? A contract which is not enforceable, or maybe ceases to be enforceable. Ceases to be enforceable. Am I right? Ceases to be enforceable is nothing but void contract. So the question comes, why is it not enforceable? Maybe the conditions given under section 10 are not satisfied. Any one of the conditions, right? Not necessarily all conditions. It is any one of the conditions given under section 10, right? It is not enforceable because maybe any of the conditions of section 10 has not been satisfied. That is where it is not enforceable, or it ceases to be enforceable. That means it can't be enforced. Correct? 2 clause J. Now, so question, if you remember, is it that void contract will be void from the very beginning? Is it that void contract will be void from the very beginning? Yes, maybe. Or it can be void from the later stage also. So when I'm saying not enforceable, that means from beginning. When we say ceases to be enforceable, that means from the beginning it was valid, but later on it turned to be not enforceable, right? Good. Chalo. We have discussed this yesterday. I'm just trying to help you again. Voidable contract. Next one is what? Voidable contract. Voidable contract is given where? 2 clause I. 2 clause I. Right, this I when you're writing, H when you're writing, J when you're writing, I hope you remember that this has to be what? A small letter. Okay, not capital letter, and has to be within brackets. Within brackets. So don't forget, so please write carefully. So voidable contract means what? It's an option. It's an option. Option given to whom? Given to the aggrieved party. Given to whom? Aggrieved party. What sort of option given? What sort of option given? Maybe the party can make the contract void or can keep it valid, can continue with the contract, right? That means can keep it valid, can make it valid, right? When is this option given? If you remember, this option is given, as I said, one of the example I pick. I'm not saying this is the only case where this option is given, but I've picked one example where we said the consent is not obtained freely. When the consent is not obtained freely, that means maybe I took an example like coercion is applied. Coercion is applied. So in that case, what would happen is the contract becomes voidable at the option of whom? At the option of aggrieved party. And aggrieved party will have the choice to make it void or valid. It's the wish of aggrieved party to decide that. Correct? So this is voidable contract. There can be some other scenarios also where the contract can become voidable. We'll come across. It's just that we've started this, so we'll be coming across this type of thing later as well. Okay, or more of examples or scenarios of this sort later. Chalo. Then illegal, we have already discussed, where the object itself of the agreement is doing something unlawful, doing something which is illegal, doing something against the law, doing something which is prohibited by law is nothing but illegal agreements. And as we said, illegal agreement is nothing but void. That too you can understand, it is void ab initio, right? Void from the very beginning. What is void ab initio? Void from the very beginning, the Latin maxim. Okay. Acha. Then I hope you remember we have talked about even unenforceable contract. One more which we have talked about is unenforceable contract, right? So here this is also not enforceable, and this is not enforceable because of what reason? Because of some special requirement, right? Some special requirement not complied. Some special requirement not complied with. Like what? Maybe writing, maybe stamping, or maybe on stamp paper, maybe registration, something like this. So we are not talking about section 10. Maybe some other requirement which is there, if not fulfilled, then the contract becomes not enforceable, right? Not enforceable in the court of law, and hence it is called as unenforceable contract. So this way we have talked about 5 contracts or 5 types of contracts when it comes to the basis legal validity or enforceability. So let's move ahead. Okay, let's move ahead and let's talk about what now? Let's talk about the other one. Okay, so the other basis which we have is what? Formation or the mode of creation. Yeah, formation or mode of creation. We have this. So in this we have got express contract, okay, which is coming from section number 9. Express contract, section number 9 gives this. Okay, we also have got implied contract. We also have got what? Implied contract. Okay, express contract, implied contract. This express contract comes from section 9 and implied contract also comes from section 9. Okay, fine, sir. What is express contract? As you could see, express. So expressing orally or expressing by way of writing. Anything can be there. So please understand, express contract means maybe contract which is written or maybe which is oral. So expressed in a written manner or expressed by way of word of mouth. There is nothing but oral. Both will be covered. Okay. So how is it formed? What is the mode of creation? So we are saying maybe oral, maybe written, right? So on the basis of mode, on the basis of formation also we can classify or we can come up with some types of contracts which is express and implied, correct? Okay. Then what is implied? The contract which comes into picture or comes because of the conduct, okay, which comes because of what? The conduct. The conduct can be act or maybe omission. Okay, conduct can be because by act or omission. Okay, sir. But sir, can we take some example? Yes, why not? See, first if I talk about express contract, let's say A agreed orally with B that I'll be selling my car to you for rupees 5 lakhs. Okay, A agreed with B that I'll be selling my car to you for rupees 5 lakhs and that too orally. So that means what is it? It's an express contract because word of mouth, that is oral means mode has been used to create some contract. Okay, fine, sir. Can it be in writing? Yes. A instead of orally saying maybe has written an email that I want to sell my car, okay, for rupees 5 lakhs, and B replies saying that yes, I want to buy your car for rupees 5 lakhs. So in this case, what happens? That's a contract which is done written way. So express is written or oral. When it comes to implied, please understand it is on the basis of conduct, which can be act or omission. So what does it mean? It means that let's say you go to a restaurant, right, and you have some cup of tea. So it's implied now that you'll have to pay for it. So there is a contract not by word of mouth, not by any written means. It's based on your conduct that a contract has come into place. Okay, you have done something, and because now you go to the pani puri wala and he just gives you that particular bowl or plate, and he starts serving, you also start having. So it's implied now, right? No written one, no expression bhaiya do, nothing you said, but then because of your conduct now that implied contract has come into place. So I hope you understand. Same way, maybe there is a possibility that because of omission also the contract can come into existence. Meaning, who knows, I have said that if Harshal doesn't buy my car, then Naman, I will sell you the car. Now let's say Harshal did not buy the car. So it's implied now that me and Naman are going to have a contract. What did I say? Let's say I said that Naman, I'll sell you my car provided Harshal doesn't buy. Maybe I said Harshal doesn't buy in 2 days, 1 week time. Okay, so now 1 week over, Harshal did not come to buy. So that means now there comes a contract between me and Naman. Okay, because of the omission. Omission by whom? Omission by Harshal. And what sort of omission he has done? He has not bought the car. So if he has not bought the car, so that means now the contract between me and Naman comes in place. Followed? So this way there is a possibility that by conduct also there can be a contract created. Now you might say, sir, this express contract or implied contract can be valid contract? Yes. As I've told you, Naman, who is a student, will come under the category of boys if I have taken gender, as the basis. And in case I take Hyderabad, domicile as the basis, and I say he falls under the category, or if I want to put again under the category, yes, I will be putting him under the category of based out of Hyderabad. So same student Naman, we are taking twice. Gender basis also, same way domicile basis. If I take some third basis also, again I will bring Naman and put him in some group of that basis. Okay, I have told you this earlier also. I am repeating these things. So please don't forget it, because these are some few things which are important. So I believe express and implied is clear. Express contract means written or oral. Implied contract means by conduct, that is act or omission. Okay, now just a chindi clue to remember the section number. Okay, 9 is the section number. Yes guys. So now if you observe here, I, implied, E, express. Okay, just a clue to remember the section number, right? We have discussed already section 2 clause H, section 2 clause I, section 2 clause E, section 2 clause B, section 2 clause J, section 10 as well. This is a 2 clause H, contract. 2 clause I, voidable contract. 2 clause E, agreement. 2 clause B, promise. 2 clause J, void contract. Section 10, essential elements of valid contract or conditions of enforceability. Now you are able to understand. What is section 9, express contract or implied contract. Okay. Chalo. Next, we'll talk about quasi contract. Okay. Next, we'll talk about what? Quasi contract. On the basis of formation or mode of creation, we're talking about quasi contract. If you remember, yesterday I've explained you contract which is created by law, right? This is the contract which is created by whom? Law. Example, if I forget my laptop and let's say Akanksha find this particular laptop, so do you think now she can keep that laptop with herself? No, because this laptop belongs to me. So what is she supposed to do? She's supposed to return that laptop to me. And what is that I am supposed to do? I am supposed to pay the charges which she has incurred for returning that laptop to me, isn't it? Now, who has put this duty on her? Same way, who has put this duty on me? Her duty is to return that laptop to me. My duty is to pay the charges, right? So, who has put this duty? Same way, I have the right to recover the laptop from her. I have the right to recover the laptop from her. She has the right to recover the money from me, correct? So, who has given these rights? Who has given the duties? It is the law which has given those rights and duties. It is not that the parties have entered into a contract. I did not say anytime, Akanksha, that if you find my laptop, you have to return it. She didn't say that if you forget your laptop, I will give it to you. Nothing like that, right? We have never agreed for this. But it is because of law. Okay, we have something called as quasi contract. Okay, so this is created by law, quasi contract. We'll study in detail about quasi contracts. As you know, we have 10 topics. We have Indian Contract Act section 1 to 75 in our syllabus. 1 to 75, chapter 1 to 6. As per the Bare Act, there are 6 chapters. But what we have done is we have done a different grouping, and we are saying there are 10 topics. Right now we are into our first topic, nature and kinds of contract, isn't it? So the other topics which we have, 9 topics, other 9 topics apart from this includes even the topic quasi contract. So when we go to that topic quasi contract, that time we'll discuss in detail about these type of things, okay, or this particular contract in detail. Right now at least you got an idea what is a quasi contract. Contract created by law. Also I've told you some chindi thing like pyar kiya nahi jata, ho jata hai, right? You don't intentionally do love, but rather it just happens. Same way, contract which is not being done intentionally but it just happens is nothing but what? Quasi contract. Acha, one thing I would like to just highlight here, or maybe you should note it, is Indian Contract Act doesn't use the term quasi contract. Indian Contract Act never uses this term, never uses this word quasi. Okay, they never use this term quasi. It is only the courts which are using, it is only the judicial, quasi-judicial bodies which are using this word quasi, and thereby we are using it. But when you read the Bare Act, you will not find the term quasi. Okay, but because everyone is using, we are also using, in the books also you will find that. But Bare Act, you don't have this term quasi. Okay, there will be certain terms which may not be there in the Act, but we might use, like Wakalatnama. You might find this term Wakalatnama in some books. Iqrar-nama, like for acceptance, few people use the term Iqrar-nama. Parda Nashin lady, Parda Nashin woman. Like that you will find some terms like this, which is not used in the law, but then courts are using, public also is using. Okay. Sir, shall we write these type of terms in exam? Yeah, as I said, we are using books also, I say books also, we have those type of words. It's just that Bare Act doesn't have this term. Okay. Chalo, great. So now we have understood express, implied, quasi, right? Now let's talk about tacit. Tacit contract means what? Based on some action. Okay, based on some action. Also, sir, based on some action, that means it's like implied only. Yeah, sort of. You can say sort of, maybe implied contract, because implied contract, when we say, we say that contract which is based on conduct, which is nothing but act or omission, isn't it? So it's a type of, or sort of, we can say. Just understand. So here, to take an example, I will say auction sale. Auction sale. Okay. Auction. All of you might have seen in movies, serials as well. Auction, right? Heard of as well. So they start. I mean, the persons who come there, the persons who are invited to purchase those particular items are invited to do bidding. Right? They do some bidding. Right, 20 rupees, someone will say 30 rupees, someone will say 50 rupees, and then let's say 50 rupees, after 50 rupees, they're not getting any bid. Then they'll say 50 rupees one time, 50 rupees 2 times, 50 rupees 3 times, and then fall of hammer will be there, right? Fall of hammer will be there. So when they do that fall of hammer, when they are actually striking that hammer on the table, that means the contract comes into place. So tacit contract are those type of contracts which are coming into place because of some action. Okay, because of this action of what? Striking the hammer on the table. So these type of things, or maybe they'll say no, not this striking of hammer, but going, gone. They'll use these type of terms, going, gone. So once they say gone, that means the contract comes into place. So that is also possible. Okay, so kindly understand, tacit contract is one of the contracts where it's purely based on action or purely based on some customary mode, like 1 2 3, going gone, like that they may use. Okay, action, or as I said, customary mode. Okay, or some customary mode they use. Right. Then one more we have today, which we talk about, e-commerce contracts. Now I don't have to tell you what is e-commerce contracts, you very well know, right? Maybe you'll say, sir, we have placed an order on Amazon and Amazon has delivered those goods which we have ordered. So this contract which is done is through the internet, is through those e-mode, electronic mode, electronic data interchange you have done. So this is nothing but e-commerce contracts. Okay, so e-commerce contract is where the mode of creation is technology, information technology, internet is being used to get into that particular contract. Okay guys, so I believe all of you have understood this, right? Formation or mode of creation, wherein we have discussed section 9, which gives us express or implied contract. Then we have talked about quasi contract. Okay, you'll say, sir, what about the sections here? 60, actually 68, 69, 70, 71, like that. There are some sections. Anyways, no worries now. When the time comes, I have told you we'll be discussing in detail about those quasi contracts. So that time I'll give you section numbers as well. Then this tacit contract is like implied contract, because there again we're talking about some action or some customary manner or mode based on which the contract comes into place. And then there is e-contract as well. That is nothing but the contract done electronic way, electronic data interchange taking place, or the internet being used for creating that particular contract. Okay, so now what did I say? Once I discuss this, first we will go through, first we will read from our book, right? So now let's come to printed material and let's try to understand this. Yes guys. So express contract, made in writing or by words of mouth, coming from where? Section number 9. Then implied contract, based on act or conduct of the parties. Example, A went to a restaurant and took a cup of tea. In this case, there is an implied contract that he will have to pay for the cup of tea. Okay, he will have to pay for the cup of tea. Both this comes from where? Section number 9 only. Okay, then comes quasi contract. No intention of the parties to enter into a contract. No intention of the parties, right? It is law alone who creates it. Example, A tradesman left certain goods at B's house by mistake. He has left it, okay, by mistake. Now B treated the goods as his own. So in this case, B is bound to pay for the goods, correct? Now because B has used it, so obviously he'll have to pay for it, right? So the parties did not intend to enter into any contract, but this just happened, right? Then come to tacit contract, inferred from the conduct of the parties, like I've told you, okay, this conduct, customary mode. So sale by fall of hammer at an auction sale is an example for tacit contract. Next, e-contracts, when the contract is entered into through the electronic means, like e-commerce, through electronic data interchange, it is called as e-contract, right? So electronic means being used, okay, electronic data interchange happening, that is where the contract comes in place. Then those type of contracts are called as e-contract. Okay, great. Now, so after completing this formation or mode of creation, okay, the basis, formation or mode of creation, now let's get into performance. Okay, the next basis is what? Performance. On the basis of performance, we'll try to understand some contracts. Okay, so come on guys, What is the first one which we are going to discuss here? Unilateral contract. Okay, what is it? Unilateral. Uni. Okay, uni. And then other one is bilateral contract. So from this also you can understand when I'm talking about bilateral, right? When I'm talking about bilateral, obviously we're talking about two. When I'm talking about uni, that means we're talking about one, correct? So kindly understand what happens in unilateral contract is one of the party has performed and the other party is yet to perform. What happens in the unilateral contract? One of the parties has already performed his part, his obligation, but the other party is yet to perform his part. That's unilateral contract. Whereas when I talk about bilateral contract, both the parties are yet to perform. Okay, both the parties are yet to perform. That's called as bilateral contract. When one of the parties is yet to perform, that is unilateral. When both the parties are yet to perform, then it is bilateral contract. Okay, so when they play a game, performance promise, okay, this PR means what? Promise. Yet to perform, that means they've promised but not yet performed, then it is unilateral. When you say both the parties are there who have to perform, okay, both are playing promise, that means it is nothing but bilateral contract. Okay, this is also called as, please understand, unilateral contract is also called as contract with executed consideration. Okay, and this is called as contract with executory consideration. Executory consideration. So, sir, what? Please take an example. What are you talking about? So, listen to me. I'll take an example to help you understand this. What is unilateral contract or what is bilateral contract? Okay. Let's say Akanksha madam, right? Our Akanksha madam has got a pet dog. Oh, don't call dog, huh? She'll get upset or she'll mind. So, let's say Tommy Choo Choo. She has a pet, okay, whose name is Tommy. So she has got Tommy Choo Choo. And Akanksha madam by mistake maybe loses that Tommy Choo Choo. Maybe that door was kept open and maybe the dog goes out of the house and then maybe now missing. So now maybe let's say that our friend Amit gets to know about this, that Akanksha has lost Tommy Choo Choo. She is looking out for this Tommy Choo Choo. So what he does, he is just he has just kept this in mind, and when he is going around, obviously he looks here and there and he looks around and then he finds that there are dogs and he finds that particular Tommy Choo Choo there. Okay, he identifies, yeah, this is the Tommy Choo Choo of Akanksha. So takes that Tommy Choo Choo into his arms, okay, and then comes to Akanksha's house. Akanksha says, wow, thank you so much, Amit. I was looking out for my Tommy Choo Choo since morning, right? You don't know how I have spent my half a day. So thank you so much for it. And I'm really happy. And I promise to pay you ₹1,000. I promise to pay you ₹1,000 as a reward for getting my Tommy Choo Choo to me. Who says this? Akanksha. So now please understand, there is a contract. There is a contract between whom? Akanksha and Amit. Right? Akanksha and Amit. Amit has already given the dog. Akanksha, it's Tommy Choo Choo. So Amit has already given that Tommy Choo Choo to Akanksha. And Akanksha has promised, that she will pay ₹1,000. So if you understand, Amit has already performed, right? Amit has already performed, but Akanksha has not yet performed. So there is a promise from Akanksha's side. So when the contract is getting created, when did the contract got created? When Amit got that particular Tommy Choo Choo to her house. That is where the contract got created, because Akanksha said, I will pay you rupees 1000. Okay, maybe she doesn't have now, so she said, I will pay you rupees 1000. So in this case, Amit has already performed, but Akanksha is yet to perform. So, right, performance is already there and the other party has only promised. So this is called as what? Unilateral contract. Or this can also be called as what? Contract with executed consideration. This can be called as contract with executed consideration. Followed, guys? Great. Now let us go to bilateral. Okay, I will take the same example with just some change. Okay, sir. Acha, what is bilateral contract? Where we said both the parties are yet to perform. Correct? Both the parties are yet to perform is bilateral contract. So now going by the same example and making some change here, please understand. Maybe it so happens that Akanksha loses that Tommy Choo Choo in the morning and Amit is her friend, so she calls him Amit and shares this. Arey Amit, I've lost my Tommy Choo Choo, I'm not able to find, and I think you can help me because you know my Tommy Choo Choo, right? And he also knows you. So whenever, don't laugh, huh? Just listen to me. So whenever you find or wherever you find this Tommy Choo Choo, please get it for me and I will pay you rupees 1000. I will pay you rupees 1000 for this as reward. Amit says, wow, definitely I'll look out for, because here's an opportunity to earn 1000 and even help you. So why not? So he says, I definitely will look out for Tommy Choo Choo, and as and when I get that Tommy Choo Choo, I will come and give it to you. Don't worry. So here, Akanksha has promised rupees 1000. She said, if you get Tommy Choo Choo, I'll give you 1000. And even Amit has promised that I will get that Tommy Choo Choo. So what is happening is, both the parties are making a promise to each other, right? This fellow is making a promise and the other person is reciprocating by way of a promise. So when there is a promise reciprocated by a promise, that type of contract is called as what? Bilateral contract. Bilateral contract. And this is also called as what? Contract with executory. Executed, nahi, executory, because nothing has been executed as of now. So executory consideration. Contract with executory consideration. Okay. So please understand, when they have formed the contract, at the time of formation of the contract, what was happening? Maybe one party has performed and other party is yet to perform, then it is unilateral. But when we say at the time of formation of the contract, both the parties are yet to perform, okay, both the parties have to perform, are yet to perform, then it is promise. So it is called as bilateral contract. Understand, my dear friends? Okay. Now let's come to the next one in this category. The basis. What is the basis we are discussing now? Come on, guys. What is the basis we are discussing? Performance. We're discussing on the basis of performance. So let's talk about the next one. What's the next one? Next one is executed contract, right? Executory contract. Just have a look at the chart which I've prepared. Yeah, here. Unilateral and then bilateral. Now we are into executed and executory. Okay. Executed. And then we have executory contract. Executed contract and executory contract. Okay. So what is executed contract and what is executory contract? Let's take the same example and let's continue further. Okay. Same example of Tommy Choo Choo. Akanksha, Amit. She called up Amit and she said, I have missed my Tommy Choo Choo. I am looking out for my Tommy Choo Choo, and if you can get it to me, then I will pay what? Rupees 1000 to you. Correct? Let's say 1st of May 2020, Akanksha has lost the Tommy Choo Choo and called up Amit and said, I will pay you rupees 1000 if you get my Tommy Choo Choo, right? Now what? and Amit also said, yes, I'll get it. Now, 3rd of May. Okay, let's say 3rd of May. Amit gets that Tommy Choo Choo and gives it to Akanksha. And let us say that Akanksha also immediately takes out ₹1,000 and pays to Amit as promised, as agreed. So Amit has given Tommy Choo Choo, Akanksha has given ₹1,000. Both the parties have performed their part. Both the parties have, completed their obligation. Then that contract, or now the contract can be called as what? Executed contract. Both the parties have performed their part. Okay, that's where it is called as what? Executed contract, right? The contract was created on 1st of May, right? Wherein on which day, or on that day, what happened was Tommy was lost. Okay, Akanksha has lost Tommy Choo Choo and called up Amit, and Amit has agreed to get that particular Tommy Choo Choo because Akanksha said, I will give you ₹1,000 for it. And 3rd of May he could get it, and Akanksha also paid 1,000. So on 3rd of May, if you talk about, this contract becomes what? Executed contract. Okay, sir. Now, what is executory contract? So going by the same example, so Akanksha will say, wow, I'm a hit today, right? Yes, Akanksha. So what is happening here? On 1st of May, okay, madam lost Tommy Choo Choo, right? Told Amit that she'll pay 1,000 if he finds, right, that Tommy Choo Choo. Now 2nd of May, let us say 2nd of May, Akanksha calls up Amit and says, what happened? What happened? What? Arey, what about my Tommy Choo Choo, boss? Did you trace, did you find Tommy Choo Choo? He says, no, I'm sorry, Akanksha, I couldn't trace that Tommy Choo Choo as of now or till now. Oh. So do you think Akanksha will pay 1,000? No, obviously not. So that means both the parties have not yet performed. Both the parties have not yet performed their obligation. Okay. On 2nd of May. Now coming to 3rd of May. Let's say on 3rd of May. Akanksha calls up Amit. Did you find my Tommy Choo Choo? He says, yes. I am at the ground floor of your building only. I am getting that Tommy Choo Choo upstairs. Be ready. I've already got it. Wow. Okay. So Amit gets that particular Tommy Choo Choo and gives it to Akanksha. Akanksha says, Arey, I thought, actually I've called up yesterday, no? So you said you couldn't trace. So I thought maybe you will not be able to. So sorry, I couldn't withdraw the money. And since lockdown is going on, I don't have actually cash with me. And maybe I cannot, my GPay or this is not working, or bank transfer I cannot do. So don't mind. I will pay you ₹1,000 later. I'll pay you ₹1,000 later. Okay. He says, okay. So maybe tomorrow you can come and collect your ₹1,000. So 4th of May, let us say Akanksha gives ₹1,000 to Amit. Okay, Akanksha gives what? ₹1,000 to Amit. Okay, sir. So now what? Now let's understand executory contract. Tell me now, on 1st of May, when the contract comes into existence, will we call it as executed contract or executory contract? 1st of May. Will it be executory contract or executed? Contract has come into place, but no one has performed. So obviously it is executory. Then 2nd of May. Okay, 2nd of May is also executory because none of them have performed their part. Now what about 3rd of May? 3rd of May, Amit has already given Tommy Choo Choo. Okay, he has done his part. Can I call it as executed contract? No. On 3rd of May also, it is executory contract only. Executory, not executed. Okay. Acha. On 4th of May, can I say it is still executory contract? No, you're right. Absolutely correct. If you're thinking this to be executed contract, you're absolutely correct. So now the point comes, sir, what is executory contract then? Executory contract means where one of the parties or both the parties are yet to perform. Even one is yet to perform or both are yet to perform. It is called as executory contract. Whereas when we say both the parties have performed, then it becomes what? Executed contract. Okay, executed contract. So when there is performance plus performance, it is executed. But when I say there is promise and promise, or when I say there is performance and promise, don't say performance and performance. Maybe you can say promise plus promise, or maybe you can say performance plus promise. Then it is executory contract. Did you understand? Acha. Now you will say, sir, but what is the difference between unilateral bilateral contract and executed or executory contract, right? You may say, sir, unilateral we discussed, bilateral we discussed, right? We discussed executory, we discussed executed. In unilateral, what did we say? One party has already performed, the other party is yet to perform. In bilateral, we said both are yet to perform, right? So promise and promise. Now when it comes to executory and executed, we said both have performed. Both have performed. And in executory, what did we say? In executory, we said maybe there is a performance from one side, one party, and other party has not performed. Or maybe both have not performed. Correct? So you'll say, sir, what is the difference between these two? We want to understand. Correct? See, the difference is very simple. When we are talking about unilateral or bilateral, we always said at the time of formation. We always talked about at the time of formation. Okay. When the contract is getting formed, at that stage we need to check and classify it as unilateral or bilateral. But when we are talking about after formation of the contract, okay, after formation of the contract, then depending on this performance, promise, performance, we'll have to classify this into executed or executory contract. That's the only difference. So when we are discussing at the stage, at the stage of, or at the time of formation, we will use the term unilateral or bilateral. Yeah, but when we are talking about after formation of the contract, please understand, when we are talking about after formation of the contract, we'll classify the contract as executed contract or executory contract. Okay, so what is executory contract? Either of the parties or one of the parties is yet to perform. Either of the parties or one of the parties is yet to perform, then it is called as executory contract. But please add the words. Don't start like this. Say after formation of the contract, when either of the parties or one of the parties are yet to perform the contract, then it is called as executory contract. But if I'm talking about executed contract, then what will you say? You will say after formation of the contract, when both the parties have performed their obligation, then it is called as executed contract. Okay. And how will you define unilateral contract? At the time of formation of the contract, when one party has already performed and the other party is yet to perform. Okay, first talk about already performed. So one party has already performed and the other party is yet to perform. That is called as unilateral contract. Understand? And when it comes to bilateral contract, what will you say? At the time of formation of contract, when both the parties are yet to perform, okay, both the parties are yet to perform, then it is called as bilateral contract. Followed, guys? Great. Okay, so we have understood this as well, right? Let's go to our sheet. Yeah. So we talked about on the basis of enforceability or legal validity, wherein we have valid, void, voidable, unenforceable, illegal types of contracts. Then on the basis of formation or mode of creation, also we said that express, implied, quasi, tacit or e-contracts can be there. Then on the basis of performance, I have written here for you in the chart if you see, At the time of formation means we'll say unilateral or bilateral contract. But when it comes to after formation of the contract, then it is what? Executed or executory contract. Okay. Now, please understand, as per English law, okay, this is as per English law. We are not talking about Indian law, we are talking about English law, English Contract Act, Britishers, okay. What they have done is they also say that the contract can be classified as simple, formal, okay. They are using two more means, formal as well as simple, okay. Formal contracts, simple contracts. Informal, they say the contract can be under seal, okay. Contract can be under seal, or contract can be off record. Contract can be off record. So they are classifying the contracts, okay. They are classifying the contract as what? My dear friends, please tell me. They are saying there can be formal contracts or there can be simple contracts, okay. Now you'll say, sir, what informal contracts? They said what? Contract of seal or contract under seal, and then one more was what? Contract, right? One more was what? Contract off record, right? Contract of seal, under seal, and then contract of record, and then there is simple contract. Now you'll say, sir, what is this contract of seal or contract under seal? See, this means when a contract has to be written, when a contract has to be signed, when a contract needs to be sealed as well. Okay, as per English law, they say when the contract has to be written, signed, sealed properly and all, then it is called as contract under seal. And when you are talking about maybe a court order, okay, court order or judgment of the court, because of which the contract comes into existence, okay, because of the court order, the contract comes into existence. Court says, yes, Mr. Gautam Jain, you'll have to teach this, okay, because of some case, maybe they have ordered me this. So now there comes a contract between you and me, okay, that will be called as per English law, this contract will be called as then contract of record, okay. And then as far as simple contract is concerned, maybe written way, maybe oral way, okay, any contract which is done, okay, simply not having so many formalities and all, or not that someone's order is there, then it is called as simple contract. Now you might ask me a question here, sir, is it that we'll have to by heart even, or we'll have to remember even, or we'll have to read even the English law? The answer is no. This English law comparison we'll do once in a while, very rarely, okay. So just for knowledge sake we are sharing this. It's not that you have to by heart this at all, okay. Don't worry about by hearting and all with respect to any comparison done with English law, okay. Chalo. Right. So now we have discussed this as well. So what would we do next? As you know, we'll be reading from our printed material as well. And then obviously we'll go to the next topic or next concept. But first let us complete this from our printed material as well. Okay. Chalo. So talking about now the third one, classification according to performance. Unilateral contract or contracts with executed consideration. A unilateral contract is a one-sided contract in which only one party has to perform his obligation. After the formation of unilateral contract, only one party, right? So at the time of formation, please understand, at the time of formation, only one party has to perform, right? That means one party has already performed. After formation of the unilateral contract, only one party remains liable to perform his obligation because the other party has already performed his obligation by doing some act. Okay, sir. Next example, A promised to pay ₹100 to anyone who finds his lost dog. B found the dog and returned it to A. It is a contract which comes into existence when the dog is found. Now only A has to perform his obligation by paying ₹100 to B because B had already performed his part of obligation by finding the dog. Here A's promise to pay was for B's act of finding the dog. So at the time of formation, what happened? At the time of formation, the person has found the dog, right? But the other person, the owner of the dog, has to pay, yet to pay. So that's where it is called as what? At the time of formation, one party has performed, other party is yet to perform. So unilateral contract. Then bilateral contract is a two-sided contract in which both the parties have to perform their respective obligations. Example, A promised to paint a picture for B and B promised to pay ₹2,000 to A. it is a bilateral contract as there is exchange of promise and obligations of both the parties are outstanding at the time of formation of the contract, right? At the time of formation of the contract. So this is bilateral contract, right? A promised to paint a picture and B said, I'll give you 2,000 for it, right? So he has not painted the picture, the other person also has not given the money. So both at the time of formation have not performed their part. Next one, executed contract. Contract that has been completely performed is nothing but executed contract. Completely performed. Huh? Then example, A agreed to sell his color TV set to B for rupees 5,000. B paid the price and A delivered the television set. It is an executed contract as both the parties have performed their obligation. Next one, executory contract, where one or both the parties to the contract have still to perform their obligation in future. Okay, one or maybe both. Executory we are discussing, no? So maybe one or both after formation of the contract. After formation of the contract, one of the parties or both the parties still have to perform, okay, still have to perform their obligation. Then the contract is termed as executory contract. Example, A agreed to sell his car to B for rupees 50,000. Car was to be delivered by A on 15th of next month and the price was to be paid by B on 25th of the same month. It is an executory contract as both the parties have to perform their respective obligation. If the car is delivered by A on 15th of the month, the car would still be executory till the price is paid by B on 25th of that month. Because once the price is paid, then we can say both the parties have performed, because already that person has given that particular car and this fellow also has paid the price for it. That's where the contract comes to an end. Okay. But till then it will be executory. Okay. Then other kinds of contract. In English law, contracts are classified into formal contracts and simple contracts. Formal contract include contracts of record and contract under seal. So they say a contract under seal is one which derives its binding force from its form alone. Okay, so form is very important. The form is very important. It is in writing, it should be signed, it should be sealed and delivered by the parties. It can also be called as deed or a specialty contract, they say. No consideration is, however, necessary in case of contract under seal. So they say consideration we are not bothered, but what we are bothered about is form. It should be in writing, sealed, okay, signed, delivered properly. That's where contract under seal. Then when it comes to contract of record, please understand, they say a contract of record is either a judgment of a court or a recognizance. A judgment is an obligation imposed by a court upon one or more persons in favor of another or others. A recognizance is a written acknowledgement of a debt due to the crown. Contracts of record derive their binding force from the authority of the court, correct? As we said, it is deriving its binding force from where? From the authority of the court. That means court is compelling. That's where the contract comes into existence. They are in fact not the real contract because they lack essential elements of consensus, but they are compulsorily enforceable by court. Okay, record, court of contracts of record comes from where? The court order or the judgment. Then coming to simple contracts, all contracts which are not made under any seal are simple contracts. They may be made in writing or may be made by words of mouth. Okay, maybe in writing or may be made by words of mouth. They are simple contracts. They are not made under any seal is what they're trying to say. Understood, guys? So this was with respect to what? Classification of contract. Okay, now what is that I have written here? There is only one good, which is knowledge, and one evil, which is ignorance, given by Socrates. You might be knowing, right? Socrates. So he has given this saying. I have given this saying just as a motivation. Okay, so in every topic you will find after the topic gets over, there is one quote given of a famous personality. So maybe read once in a while. Acha. So now let's go back to our index, okay, and see what did we cover till now. We have got, if you recall the syllabus, we have got Indian Contract Act 1872, we have got Sale of Goods Act, we have got Indian Partnership Act, LLP Act, and also Companies Act. And we are into, obviously, the first one, which is Indian Contract Act 1872. And in this Indian Contract Act 1872, we have 10 topics, right? So we have covered the first topic, which is nature and what kinds of the contract. We have completed this one, first one, right? So now let us not rush to immediately topic number 2, offer and acceptance. What will we do now? We will refer the study material, okay, given by your ICAI. Given by whom? Your ICAI ones. Just to understand any assignment, any questions which they have given. So I'll come to the end of this. Yes. Yeah, so they have given some questions. They're saying test your knowledge. Acha, I hope you know where to find this. The session which we at Darpan sir have taken earlier, if you remember, we have guided you on the ICAI website. So in the Board of Studies knowledge portal, you will easily find this, study material published by ICAI, correct? So you may find this, So this is not my material. This is the material issued by ICAI. So we are just trying to refer some questions from it. Okay, so some MCQs are there. Let's try to answer. An agreement enforceable by law is what? An agreement enforceable by law is what? Obviously, it's a contract, correct? So option number B is the answer. Next, a void agreement is one which is, they say, valid but not enforceable. How can void agreement be valid? Isn't it? It's a contradictory statement. Enforceable at the option of one of the parties? No. Option of both the parties? No. Obviously not. The right answer is what? It is not enforceable in court of law. So answer is option number D. Correct. Then coming to third question. An agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one or more of the parties thereon, but not at the option of other or others, is called what? Obviously voidable contract. Whenever we say there is an option with one party, not the other party, both the parties cannot have. One party is having, the other party will not have. And who's that party who will have? Aggrieved party, which will be given voidable option. So this is a voidable contract. So answer is C. Next, when the consent of a party is not free, when the consent is not free, the contract is obviously voidable. We said voidable, isn't it? Like coercion example I picked. So we said the aggrieved party will get voidable option. Next, in case of illegal agreements, the collateral agreements are, in case of illegal agreements, the collateral agreements are what? They are also void, isn't it? They are also void. Then sixth one or seventh one is the one which is not discussed yet, okay? Because their classification is different from our classification. Meaning, sir, what do you mean by it? See, we have 10 topics under Indian Contract Act. This is the grouping I have done. But ICAI has done grouping under 6 topics only. 6 topics is what they are doing. So obviously the first topic which they are having is not just the one which we have covered, but something more also, because they have to club this 10 into 6. So there is a possibility like this, that some questions are now, which this particular question or relating to offer, proposal, we have it in topic number 2. So anyways, we can come back again and discuss it later. Then they have given some theoretical questions, like they are saying all contracts are agreements, but all agreements are not contracts. Comment on it. Okay, so this is a theoretical question they are asking. So you have to elaborate on it. What is a contract? What is an agreement? We have discussed this if you remember, right? So you have to elaborate on it. And see, whenever you're writing answers, please understand, when we have questions like this, we expect you to answer point wise instead of giving paragraphs, right? Now they've given paragraph wise, but if you just see, they've also tried that they don't like cover it only as just one paragraph or 2 paragraphs. They are also dividing it into some decent number of paragraphs. That means it's like points which they're trying to cover. So please, you also try to do the same way. Okay. Then coming to the next one, define the term acceptance. We haven't discussed yet. Okay. Distinguish between void and illegal agreement. Today, while revising only, we have talked about, right? Void agreement. All void agreements are not illegal, but every illegal agreement is void. Then if you recall, we said every void agreement, every illegal agreement will have punishment for sure, but that will not have void agreement. When we say void contract, when we say it may be void from the beginning, it may not be. Void agreement means void from the very beginning, and illegal agreement for sure will be what? Always void from the very beginning. So like that, we have discussed few differences between that. So that is also given here. Okay, instead of giving in a tabular form, they have given in what? Paragraph or point wise. Achha, one more thing, collateral transaction. Illegal, we said collateral transactions are all what? Void. But when it comes to void agreement, if we are talking about some collateral, that need not necessarily be void. But in illegal, all collateral transactions, all connected transaction is nothing but void. Okay. Right, sir. Now what? Now one more thing which I want to take up is this one. What is this? Here there are some questions, okay? And I want you to answer some theoretical, see MCQs you have seen, some theoretical questions you have seen. Now we have some practical questions, okay? These are some practical questions. These are some questions where you need to apply the provisions. Whatever provisions you have understood, now you need to apply them properly in the cases which are there. Let's see whether you can do it or not, okay? Let's check it out. At least 2-3 questions we'll try to solve so that you understand as well that how practical questions are asked. So a husband, question number 1, a husband agreed to pay to his wife certain amount as maintenance every month while he was abroad. Husband failed to pay the promised amount. Wife sued him for the recovery of the amount. Decide as per Indian Contract Act whether the suit by wife is maintainable. If you remember, this is actually a case law which is put into some question form, right? This is a case, practical case, which is put into a question form and is being asked. This is Balfour versus Balfour case, where we said this is a social agreement, right? The court held that it is a social agreement and hence it cannot be enforced in the court of law. Hence, it cannot be enforced in the court of law. So, whether the suit, okay, whether the case is maintainable, that means can that be maintained? Can the court continue with that case? The answer is no, it is not possible. Correct, guys? Okay. Second question. A threatened to shoot B if B does not lend him rupees 2 lakhs and B agreed to it. Decide the validity. He's saying if you don't lend me rupees 2 lakhs, I will shoot you. So obviously the person who cares for his life will say yes, and that's what happened with B. B said okay, I'll give. Now is this a valid agreement or not? And I hope you remember this is nothing but the concept of coercion. The consent has not been obtained freely. So what would happen here? This case or this particular agreement will become voidable. And if I ask you now, voidable at whose option? Voidable at the option of the aggrieved party. And who's the aggrieved party here? The aggrieved party is B. Okay. Chalo. Third one, Mr. M agrees to write a book with a publisher. After few days, Mr. M dies in an accident. Now decide the future of the agreement. M agreed that I'll write the book, but then M died in an accident. Now do you think Mr. Publisher can go to the court of law and call that person again? Yamraj, please send that person again and then let him first perform and then you can take him. No, it's not possible, my dear friends. Yesterday we've discussed it should be possible to perform, right? And here it's not possible to perform. So this is hit by impossibility, and that's where what happened, the agreement will become void. The agreement will become void. Court cannot compel the parties, right? Okay, then question number 4. X contracts with Z, who's the owner of the factory, for supply of 10 tons of rice. But before the supply is effected, that is completed, the fire caught in the factory and everything was destroyed. Now discuss. If you remember this type of example we have discussed earlier as well. Again what will happen? This is hit by impossibility. So obviously it's not possible for that particular owner of the factory to supply the rice, right? Next one, question number 5. A coolie in uniform picks up the luggage of R to be carried out of the railway station without being asked by R, and R allows him to do so. Okay, coolie is in uniform, and what did he do? He picked up the luggage of R without asking R, and now R allows him. Now examine whether the coolie is entitled to receive money from R. Answer is yes. This is nothing but implied contract, because when this coolie has picked up that particular luggage and the person, that is R, has not objected to it, this implies very clearly that he has agreed to it. So there comes what? An implied contract. And when there is an implied contract, this is a valid contract. Obviously, R will have to pay the money, right? So coolie is entitled to receive the money from R. Yes, very good. Then we have what? Next one. A promises to sell his plot to B for rupees 10 lakhs cash down. Okay, so he says, I'll pay you immediately at one go what? Completely rupees 10 lakhs. But B pays only rupees 2,50,000 as earnest money and promises to pay the balance on next Sunday. On the other hand, A gives the possession of plot to B and promises to execute a sale deed on the receipt of whole amount. State the nature of agreement. Okay, so the other questions we'll take up later. Okay, so those type of things we are yet to discuss. So right now we will not get into that. Okay, later on we will discuss those other questions. But did you understand? If you are able to follow the type of questions, okay, the questions which can be asked in the examination, okay, is theoretical questions. Few people call it as even descriptive questions. Then there can be even questions which will be of distinguishing, that means differentiate. There will be even some practical questions. Practical questions means which is based on some case or case study or maybe some exam. Okay, it's not necessary that every time the practical question will be from only cases. No, some hypothetical situation created and they will expect you to apply the provisions in that hypothetical situation and come up with the answer. Okay, so if you understand, this practical questions is always application oriented. Is always what? Application oriented. Okay, and this will be testing what? Your concept, whether you know the concept or not, whether you're able to apply the concept or not is a different thing. As I said, this application oriented is going to cover that, but just whether you have understood or not. So it tests your understanding of the concepts and whether you remember them. So basically it will check your memory as well, whether you are able to remember. Apart from this, very rarely there is a possibility, but we cannot rule out that possibility, which is of MCQs. In your paper number 3 and paper number 4, they have clearly mentioned that the total paper is MCQ based. But when it comes to paper 1 and 2, it is subjective type of paper, wherein normally you don't get, but in case sometimes they feel 2 marks, let's ask some MCQ, some fill in the blanks, some yes or no, some true or false with reasons, they may ask. Okay, so when I say MCQs, I'm not just talking about 4 options, but sometimes true or false with reason also might be asked. Sometimes maybe some fill in the blanks. Okay, fill in the blanks might be asked. There is a possibility. Okay, see, what I have done is I have completed topic number 1 and then I have taken some questions from your study material. I say study material, right, trying to tell you what type of questions they can ask. Like now, if I get into this topic 1, can they ask you question, state the essential elements of a valid contract? Yes, it will be a theoretical question wherein you'll have to write all those conditions given under section 10. Or they may say, please explain the term contract, right? Explain the term contract. They'll not say please, I am using that. So they'll say explain the term contract. Then you'll have to explain it properly. Explain it properly in the sense what? What is a contract? What is an agreement? What's a promise? Right? So to that extent, you'll have to go and explain. Or as you have seen in study material, they might say all agreements are not necessarily contracts, but every contract is an agreement. Explain, elucidate. You'll have to do that. So I'm just trying to help you. Once a topic gets over, think about it, revise it, think about what type of questions can be asked. Okay, and as I have shown you some questions you can pick from your ICI material or some question which I have just now shown you that way. Achha, that practical question is also the list from ICI only. Okay, from ICI only. ICI has got a lot of resources available on their website. So from there only I have picked it up. Few more if you want, because if you are left with time, right now you may have a lot of time, but as and when we complete the syllabus, probably you'll have less time. So still, but if you feel that no, you are able to take out some time and you want to solve extra questions, let's say you want to solve some extra questions, you can let me know. I can help you there with respect to the source for the extra questions. Okay, chalo, great. So now we have talked about our first topic, isn't it? Acha, arey, but one thing, sorry, I forgot. Sir, okay, these are the types of questions, fine, but how do we answer them? You said theoretical descriptive questions. Okay, this theoretical descriptive questions should be answered point wise. Should be answered point wise. Paragraphs also, if you're using, make sure that the paragraph is not like too much of length. It should be like very decent one, and then switch over to another paragraph. So basically it looks like point wise, that's why I'm writing point wise. Distinguishing means I've told you, you should use a tabular form, table, wherein you should have 3 columns, correct? So this way you should go for. MCQs anyways, you know, right? A, B, C, D. So the correct answer A, then you write A. True or false, then you write true or false. And if they say with reason, so state the reason. Exact reason has to be stated, not elaborating too much. Fill in the blanks again, blank has to be. So as per the requirement, yeah, you will have to answer. So question comes, sir, what about the practical question? How do we actually solve, or how do we actually, would you say, write the answer to a practical question, right? Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's take up a question and then I'll show you how to write. Okay, or I'll show the question to you, and what you will be doing is I'll be, would you say, taking a pause for maybe, let's say, 4 to 5 minutes. You will be writing the answer. I'll show the question, and just now we have discussed the answer also, but I want you to write the answer, and I'll wait for you. Like I do it in my face-to-face class, same way. I'm going to wait for you. You will complete, and then I'll tell you whether you have done it right or not. Okay. So let's go for which question? Yeah. Let's say we will go for question number 3. Okay. Question number 3, which is placed in front of you. Okay. Which is placed in front of you. Mr. M agrees to write a book with a publisher. After few days, Mr. M dies in an accident. Decide the future of the agreement. Imagine this is the question for, let's say, 4 marks or 3 marks in your exam, and you have to answer this. So how will you write? And your time starts now. Come on, guys. I'm waiting for you. You will have to write the answer for this question number 3. Read the question which is there on the screen. Again, Mr. M agrees to write a book with a publisher. Okay, agrees to write a book with a publisher. After a few days, Mr. M dies in an accident. Decide the future of the agreement. So my dear friends, your time starts now. You have 5 minutes with you. So kindly write the answer. Come on, guys. Yes, you'll have to complete it fast. Yeah. So let's discuss the answer. I hope all of you have written. If you have not written, maybe you can pause this video, write, and then come to this answer. Okay. What did we say? I'll read the question again, once again. Mr. M agrees to write a book with a publisher. After a few days, Mr. M dies in an accident. Decide about the future of the agreement. Okay. He's agreed to write a book, but then he died. Now what will happen is what is the question. So let's try to answer it. Acha. So please understand, whenever we are writing answer to a practical question, okay, whenever we are writing answer to a practical question, what is that we expect? First thing which we expect is the applicable law, applicable provision, okay, applicable law. Then acha, if you say, sir, there's no law, then maybe case law or whatever you are referring, whatever is the benchmark, that is the first thing which we expect you to write. Then facts of the case. Next is what? Facts of the case. Then question involved. Next is what? Question involved. And after that, maybe your explanation. And then finally the conclusion. These are the 5 steps we'll expect, okay, one after the other, which you have to use. So if you recall the question, Mr. M, who has agreed to a publisher that he'll be writing a book, what happened is after a few days he died, okay, he met with an accident, he couldn't, whatever, okay, he died basically, so he couldn't actually write the book. So what is the future of the agreement is the question, correct? So now we have to answer this using this particular steps, okay? So come on, let's try to build, okay? What did I say? Applicable law, huh? First the applicable law, then facts of the case, then what is the question involved, then I said explanation, your reasoning, and then the conclusion. Don't start with conclusion. Conclusion should be at the end. Okay, so we will say, now see, what I'm doing is putting a bullet point, huh? If I say this is the margin, so don't go beyond the margin, be inside the margin, use some bullet points because we are going to write the answer point wise only. I am not saying that we should have these 5 points. What I'm saying is these are the 5 things which we expect. Now these 5 things can be in 5 points, can be in 10 points also, can be in 8 points also. So these are not the number of points, these are just the number of things which we should cover, okay? So as per the provisions of Indian Contract Act, okay, the Indian Contract Act 1872, a contract cannot be performed if it is affected by, right, affected by what? Impossibility, affected by impossibility, right? This is what it says. Also, sir, where is it written? Impossibility, that's covered in section 56, but as of now you don't know impossibility, okay, or you don't know those section numbers, that's why I'm not quoting. I'm just saying as per the provisions, so it's okay. Also, sir, we don't have to quote that. If you remember the number, please quote. If you don't remember, don't quote. In my first initial class, initial classes, that is first classes, few classes also, I've quoted this and I've given an example also with respect to the section numbers and all, right? So if you remember, well and good, you quote. If you don't remember, that's fine. As of now, I'm not quoting because you don't know the numbers, right? Yeah. So this is applicable provision we have written. Then comes facts. I'll say, in the given case, Mr. M has agreed to write a book, with whom? Publisher, but he died after few days. Okay, so this is facts of the case. A question involved is about the future of the agreement. Future is about the future of the agreement. Okay, so we have covered provision, we have covered facts of the case, we've also covered question involved here. Next, what are we supposed to write? Please understand. Next thing which we will have to cover is explanation, our explanation now, and with the help of that explanation we should be able to conclude. We will say, applying the above provisions in the given case, right? We are applying those above provisions in the given case. We applying the above provision, we understand that death death of a party or a person, also you can say here, right? Person or party leads to impossibility. Leads to what? Impossibility. And if it leads to impossibility, then contract cannot be performed. Hence, so that means we are coming to conclusion. Hence, the contract becomes void, right? Or you can say the contract is, or we can say contract is not enforceable, is not enforceable. Followed? So applying the above provisions in the given case, we understand that death of a person or party leads to impossibility. Okay, and if it leads to impossibility, then the contract cannot be performed and the contract becomes void or is not enforceable. So it's not just that you should know the answer, but also you should know how to write the answer. If you know how to write the answer, then obviously you'll get more marks, because then you'll be able to impress the examiner, you'll be able to convince the examiner, right? So please understand that this is the way in which you will write answer to a practical question covering these 5 elements: applicable law, facts of the case, question involved, explanation, conclusion. Okay, so when I talk about the provisions, right, this applicable law, when I'm talking about this given case, that means I'm talking about facts of the case. When I'm talking about question involved, right, then I'm talking about question involved. Then this applying the provisions means we are talking about the explanation, our reasoning. And then when we are talking about this, hence the contract becomes what, that means we are coming to ultimate answer, which is nothing but conclusion. This is the sequence which we need to follow to impress. You'll say, sir, if we don't write in this sequence, will we get marks? Yes, you may get marks, but the idea is to get more marks. So if you want more and more marks, maximum marks, the presentation has to be convincing, and this is the way you can convince better or more than writing just the way you want to write. Okay guys, so keep in mind this. Now if you remember the PPT which we have used, the presentation which I have shown you earlier, right, with respect to basics of law, had this particular slide. Okay, answer to the practical question, if you can just recall, right, glossary, sections, this all we have discussed, rules of interpretation. So there was this last slide wherein we had answer to the practical question, and I said I am not taking up. Okay, at that stage I said I am not taking up, but I'll take up later. So now today I have taken up this. If you understand now, what did I write here? Those same steps which I have just now talked about. Applicable provision or case law should be the first thing, then facts with question involved, then facts with question involved, because after facts you write question involved, so maybe you can say second, third, or maybe second clubbed with third, and then explanation. Okay, with suitable assumption I have written, because in case facts are not complete, that also I'll show you how, okay, later when we take up some question of that sort. So we will have to take some suitable assumption and then give the answer. Then we have to give the answer, that is the conclusion. This way the 5 steps, okay, or the 4 steps which we need to use, this is the sequence which we expect. Then you will say, sir, what did you write here? According to provisions of Companies Act. Yeah, I have given just a sample that when you start off with the provision, okay, you can use these words as per the provisions, or you can say according to the provisions of, like we have said the Indian Contract Act 1872. Same way here I have written Companies Act. Then when it comes to facts with question involved, I have written what? The starting words, the opening words can be in the given case, in the instant case, like that you can write. When it comes to question involved, we can have the opening wordings as what? The question involved is, like we have used already. Then explanation, as I've told you, applying the above provisions in the given case. When it comes to answer, you'll say hence, therefore, so the answer is, or so the conclusion, or the conclusion is. And but sometimes what happens is they might ask two questions, one after the other. If the situation change, then will your answer change? Like that alternative question they may ask. So in that scenario, I have written, you may write even alternative answer, or if there is some exception, then you may write that or code that exception also. So those type of words I have written. You'll say, sir, but why? Again, simple thing. If you're following some uniformity, if you're presenting it properly, it will help you. It will help even the examiner or the the person who's correcting, evaluator who's correcting your paper. He'll also understand this is the sequence which you follow, and he'll understand it better. With less time he can correct, within less time he can correct your paper. So obviously he'll give you more marks. So that was my idea basically. Okay. So I believe all of you have understood this. Come on, guys. Yes, sir. We have understood. Now, so a few things which I would like to just highlight for you. Okay. So please pay attention. The first thing, as I've told you, please keep this as margin, because you'll be getting a single rule book with margin only. Okay. So if this is a margin, always write the answer inside it. Okay. As you could see, I have not written anything outside. If I want, I could write this word answer. Okay. Outside. Let's say question number. Yeah, I can write. Suppose this is question 1A. I can write this. That's it. Don't write anything other than this. And then inside. Now when I'm using bullet points, see, I have used just some dot. Don't try to show your skills, Rangoli skills, drawing skills here by using some sort of bullet points like this or maybe this. Okay, avoid all this. Just use simple one, because you need to save time as well. Correct? Then one more thing I would say. Now here, if you just see, I have used some short form. I have not written agreement fully. Okay, I just spelled it out the way I wanted. Don't do that in examination. Please understand this. You have to be careful with this. You will have to write correct spellings and full spellings. You may say, sir, can't we use some short forms, right? We have the habit of using short form like THE. Can we use D? No, not at all. Please understand that's not allowed. But then when it comes to something like this, CO dot company, this has got universal acceptability. So if you want to use some short forms which has got universal acceptability, you may use it. Same way, if I talk about LTD, limited, right? All of us know this is nothing but LTD means what? Limited. This you can use. So the ones which have universal acceptability, you may use. There's no problem. Okay. Otherwise, don't use short forms. Don't go for, just scribbling. Please write the spellings correctly. Please write the full, word properly. Please use this bullet points properly. Okay. Write inside and write point wise. Follow this sequence. Obviously, you can impress the examiner. So, sir, do we need to practice? Yes, that's where I have told you in the initial classes, you need to practice a few questions. Maybe if you don't practice descriptive questions or MCQs or maybe distinguish one, it's okay. I'm not saying don't do that, but just in case you don't do it, still it might be okay, right? But then when it comes to answer to practical questions, definitely some practice is required. When you practice, right? When you practice, it will help you a lot, right? The confidence level will also improve. Okay, guys. So we have covered basics of law, right? Initially, we have covered basics of law. Then we started with Indian Contract Act. In that, we have covered first topic, that is nature and types of contract. Then I have also told you, after completing any topic, you need to solve some questions. Okay, solve some questions, and also if possible, practice questions. And how to do that also I have shown you, right? So we'll follow this methodology. Now we'll go to topic number 2. Again, I'll tell you what is that we'll discuss in topic number 2. We'll be reading from our printed material as well. We'll be, after completing that, maybe we'll solve some questions as well, right? And then I'll tell you what type of questions also can come from there. And then once we complete that, then you can practice at home, and then we'll move on to the next topic. And once we complete some reasonable amount of syllabus, then you will have test as well. Right now, I'm not going to conduct any test. Let me first complete at least one more topic, and then we will have one test. So right now with this topic 1, we are not going to have test, but once we complete topic 2 as well, yes, we will have a test. Okay. Yes. Chalo. So now let us go to the next topic. what is the next topic which we are taking? If you remember, I have already told you that we'll be taking offer and acceptance as our next topic. Okay, offer and acceptance as our next topic we are taking. So sir, what is that we need to discuss here? So let me just first give you the outline as to what are we going to take, what are we going to read, what are we going to learn in this topic. Okay, offer and acceptance. First of all, we will study the definition. Okay, we'll go through the definition of offer as well as of acceptance. Then secondly, we will also read something called as essential elements of a valid offer or valid acceptance. Okay, this also we are going to go through. Essential elements of what? Valid offer, and essential elements of what? Acceptance. Then apart from this, some important points relating to offer, important points relating to offer, and important points relating to acceptance also. Okay, definition, then essential elements of a valid offer, same way essential elements of valid acceptance. Then, as I've written, some important points. Okay, then when it comes to offer, we will also discuss kinds of offer or types of offer. We don't have kinds of acceptance, okay, but we have kinds of offer. And then we also have got something called as lapse of offer. Okay, is there a possibility that offer gets lapsed? Okay, offer comes to an end. So which way? So we have to discuss that as well. Okay, in offer. In acceptance, what did I say? Definition, essential elements, and some important points. What did I say in offer? These three plus two more: kinds of offer and also lapse of offer. Apart from this, what are we going to read or what are we going to discuss? Section 3, 4 and 5, which talks about communication of offer, acceptance and revocation. Okay, communication of offer, acceptance and revocation. Please don't worry about anything. This is what we are going to study in detail. I am just giving you the outline of this topic. What are we going to cover in this topic is what I am trying to convey as of now. Okay, I'm not teaching you anything. I'm just sharing the topics or the concepts which are there in this topic number 2 which we are taking. Okay, so communication of offer, acceptance and revocation. Then we are going to discuss about even the time limit. Okay, or one thing, we'll discuss about completion of communication of again offer, acceptance and revocation. Okay, how do we communicate offer? How do we communicate acceptance? How do we communicate revocation? Revocation means what? Withdrawal, withdrawing, revoke, withdraw. Okay, so how to withdraw the offer, how to withdraw the acceptance, that is revocation. So how to communicate that. Okay, and then when will we say that communication is complete? See, I say something but you don't follow. Do you think I can say the communication is complete? No. If you follow what I say, then I can say my communication is complete. Correct? I say something, you follow, communication is complete. I say something, you don't follow, I can never say communication is complete. So that's the point here. So that's what completion of communication of what? Offer, acceptance and revocation. Then we also have got something called as time limit. Time limit for what? Time limit for revocation. Okay, time limit for revocation is also there. So sir, what time limit? See, if offer can be revoked, when do you think offer can be revoked? Before what time it can be revoked? Same way, if we say acceptance can be revoked, before what time acceptance can be revoked? This also needs to be answered. So this also we are going to discuss. Like that, we have got some section 3, section 4, section 5. To be very precise, this is like 3, this is section 4, this is section number 5, which we are going to discuss. Understood, guys? So communication of offer, acceptance, revocation, completion of offer, acceptance, revocation, and then time limit for revocation. Revocation of what? Obviously offer and acceptance. So this is the outline of our topic number 2. What is topic number 2? Offer and acceptance. Correct. Topic number 2, offer and acceptance. Great. So before we move on, first give me just the list of sections which we have completed till now. Sections which we have completed till now. 2 clause H, contract. Before that, I'll say section number 1 also we have completed. Then 2 clause H we have completed. 2 clause E, agreement. Right? 2 clause H, contract. 2 clause E, agreement. 1 is anyways title, extent and commencement date. Then 2 clause B is nothing but promise, we said. So we have completed that. Then 2 clause I we said is voidable contract. 2 clause I, voidable contract. 2 clause J is void contract. Right? 2 clause J is void contract. Then we talked about what? Section number 10. Section number 10, which is nothing but essential elements of a valid contract, or we can say conditions of enforceability. Then we have talked about express contract, implied contract, which is section number 9, right? Which is section number 9 of this Indian Contract Act, isn't it? Then you'll say, sir, you talked about impossibility, section 56. Yeah, but I haven't focused on it. Section 9, I've gave you clue also. I've given you clue as well, but 56 I have not. So let me not talk about it. Now, when I'm discussing this particular topic number 2, we are going to study section number 2A, because this will give us 2 clause A, okay, to be very precise, 2 clause A, which will give us definition of offer. 2 clause B, definition of acceptance. You say, sir, 2 clause B is definition of acceptance, but you said the other date is promise. See, here also I've written 2 clause B, promise. I'm saying 2 clause B is also what? Acceptance. Yes, this 2 clause B gives not just the meaning of acceptance, but also gives the meaning of promise. Both are there, one after the other. Because as we say, an offer when accepted becomes a promise. So once they complete acceptance, next line they write this particular line, an offer once accepted becomes a promise. So both the things, remember, acceptance as well as promise are there in section 2 clause B. Okay. Then apart from this, as I've told you, we'll be reading even section number 3, section number 4, section number 5. For information, we will be reading even section number 6. We'll be even referring to section number 8. Like that, we'll be referring some sections. Okay. So you'll get to know. Once we complete the topic, again I will do this. After every topic, I will try to do this. Okay. What? Yeah, revise the section numbers. Revise the sections which we have covered. Revise the section numbers, I'm saying, which has been, which we have completed. So we'll do that. Okay, sir.